Welcome into the NBA Morning Deuce 2020 NBA Draft Live Reaction. It's your boys, Alex and Joey. First live stream, Alex. This is a big deal. We've been teasing it on the pod for a while now. Weren't sure if it was actually going to happen, if we were going to make this thing go. And here we are.
Yeah, this is really exciting. I was doing my makeup all day. I dipped out of work early to make sure I was looking good for the show. And so far, NBA has not disappointed at all because we got a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just start. I mean, we're at the 20th pick. Miami Heat are on the clock. The first round is still going on. And let's start by going back to the top of the draft, right? I mean, we were wondering whether it was going to be LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman. Turns out what we've been hearing the last couple of days, Anthony Edwards goes number 1 overall to Minnesota. And I think it's the right move. We've talked about it extensively on the podcast. For those of you who are joining us from the podcast, thank you. For those of you who are new watching this for the first time, thank you for watching also. But I'm not big on point guards in the top 3, top 5, whatever it is. And they took the best wing in the draft. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Closer and closer it got to the start of the draft, I was more confident in this one. I mean, it's kind of just like Anthony Edwards should be what Andrew Wiggins was going to be for that. You know what I mean? Like they missed on Andrew Wiggins, and like that pairing of Wiggins and Towns was so like exciting when it happened. And now, not too many years later, Towns is still young and they're going to pair with Anthony Edwards. So maybe it works in that regard for the Timberwolves. But pairing a really talented wing with Towns is really exciting. And you've got D'Angelo Russell in the mix. So
the Miami Heat just selected Precious Achua from Memphis.
So he was wearing like a crown,
20th,
possibly
20th overall pick. So we'll get to that in a second, but that's interesting because not a lot of people, I don't think he was a guy that a ton of Heat fans down here were targeted. We're thinking, he plays the same position pretty much as Vernon Carey Jr., who a lot of people thought maybe Miami was targeting out of Duke. So we'll see. We'll talk about him in a second. But Anthony Edwards, the guy we were talking about, I think what we have to do right off the bat, besides talking about what he is as a player, here's what he is as a player. To me, I mean, he's an absolute freak athlete. He's a flat out scorer. And so, like you said, he's going to have to be that Andrew Wiggins type that Andrew Wiggins never was for them. And I think you're right. It makes perfect sense because he fits next to D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. But for all intents and purposes, this guy, he might be the weirdest. Who were we talking about the other day where you're like, this guy's going to be a weird, was it Tyler Hero? You were like, oh
yeah, Tyler Hero.
We're
in a different sense though.
This guy is going to, right. This guy is a complete weirdo. So let's start with this, I guess, interview he gave the other day where I'm having trouble pulling up on. Oh, here we go. So, sorry guys. Here we go.
Look at this.
So I guess he was asked about watching basketball or playing basketball. And here's what he said. For those of you who aren't watching, who can't see, to be honest, I can't watch basketball. He retells the story about the first time he dunked and how it signaled to him that he was talented and he could accomplish something that he might not have been able to in football. So I guess he was a football player, which was his first love. So that's the direction he went. Simple as that, hanging up his cleats. That's all I needed to see. So when after that did he get into basketball? I'm still not really into it, he says. I love basketball. Yeah, it's what I do. He's not entirely convincing. He says if he were drafted by the NFL tomorrow, he'd let basketball go because you can do anything on the field. You can spike the ball. You can dance. You can do all that type of disrespectful stuff. In the NBA, he says you can't do any of that. You'll get fined. He goes on to say that he's an aspiring rapper. He's already recorded a few tracks with his older brother, Bubba. So then the question is, so like Damian Lillard, and his response is, but I could really rap. He says Dame talking about, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm rapping like Lil Baby.
Oh, red flag city for me, dude. The rapping thing is not that big of a deal, but the I can't watch basketball is a huge red flag for me. That's not good, dude. For the guy you want to take your franchise to the next level.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. LaMelo just got pulled up. It's weird. And then right before we went live, I had someone send me another thing about apparently, and you said you've been sent this before too. This one I can't pull up as easily, but I guess there's this thing about him not being able to eat at Benihana or being allowed to eat at Benihana. Says he's definitely a little out there. My friend manages at Benihana and said that they had to ask Edwards to stop coming in. Apparently, he didn't understand how the restaurant worked and would casually bring in his own food to heat up on the teppan tables. The last straw was when he sat at a table hosting a large birthday party and spilled his entire container of gumbo all over the stovetop.
Joey, is it possible he's just hilarious? Like, is he just the funniest dude ever? Like, maybe he's
maybe
gunning for Blake Griffin's like comedy prowess in the NBA. Because that's hilarious, but if it's not for comedic effect, it's super weird. And I don't know, maybe we're just going to have to let this thing play out. But if I'm a Timberwolves fan and I'm being honest, I'm like, I really hope this guy gets his head screwed on straight.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, they're about to give this guy what's the number 1 overall pick slotted to make?
Oh my God, yeah, I wrote it down here. It's 4 years, 44 million, 20 million guaranteed.
To a guy that doesn't watch basketball.
Who doesn't like basketball. Well, yeah, I guess he doesn't like basketball.
Look, maybe he's so good. Maybe he's so good that this doesn't matter. But it's not like super encouraging.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be super encouraged either. But I think they got the most talented player. So there's that. And that's what you want. I think my interesting early takeaway in the top 10 was I saw a lot of mock drafts with a lot of point guards going early. And as you see here, Killian Hayes and LaMelo Ball went in the top 10, but they're the only 2 point guards that went in the top 10. A lot of wings and athletic bigs went early. So at 2, we got James Wiseman to the Warriors. We heard that for a long time. The big story with the Warriors right now, as opposed to not really it's not really Wiseman, which is a guy we expected to be potentially in Golden State. It's this Klay Thompson thing. Apparently Klay Thompson was doing something earlier today and has a serious lower leg injury. This dude right here, who I don't really know, I've never really heard of him, but he tweeted that Klay Thompson tore his Achilles, and this guy Vasu Kulkarni also said that last time I tweeted some shit like this was the night I beat Woj to the Rudy Gobert coronavirus news. I wish I was getting bad info, but he's the only one I've seen tweet it, so I don't know if it's true.
Right. This sucks. The reporting around it is really weird. Like the fact that they're like, everything I've heard, even from Woj or just ESPN, is that it is serious. Like they're worried. They're very worried.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're fearing an Achilles and maybe they need to wait for an MRI to come back or something. But this absolutely sucks for the NBA in general. Because I think me and a lot of people were waiting to watch this Warriors revenge tour that is not going to be as effective without Klay Thompson. Obviously, I mean, that doesn't even have to be said.
I don't know, man. They're probably not going to be. We just don't know what they are. It sucks. Why? And I don't think Wiseman's going to be that good that very quickly. A lot of people comparing him to Chris Bosh. I don't see it.
I think he has the highest ceiling by like a lot. Actually, I know it sounds crazy to say like higher ceiling than Anthony Edwards, but I think like just looking at the raw picture for James Wiseman, like his potential is through the absolute roof.
Yeah. By the way, Tyrese Maxey just went number 21 to your Sixers.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my face. It probably looked like I was reacting to the Klay Thompson thing, but I was reacting to Tyrese Maxey, who kind of one of these swing for the fences type of picks here, right? Like super high upside, right?
I thought I saw that he was slipping, and I was like, this is going to be the guy. This is going to be the Kentucky guy this year that falls, because he didn't really fit in the Kentucky system, or he just didn't put up numbers the way guys do at other programs, and he'll be really good in the NBA. Yeah, but we'll get to that as we get through the first round. Yeah, the Klay Thompson thing is rough. It just sucks, man. But we'll see what happens with Wiseman. We'll see what happens with that team. I mean, is Wiggins going to be on the move? Do they have to keep Wiggins now because they need another wing scorer? I mean, it's crazy. With the third pick, LaMelo Ball. Whew. LaMelo goes to Charlotte. MJ taking a swing here.
I was going to say, this doesn't strike me as a Jordan guy. Is that? I mean, you would know better than I am, but it doesn't. He's too like flashy. He's too.
Well, I mean, I think
eccentric maybe is the word.
I think if this was what 3 years ago or whenever Lonzo was in the draft in 2017, was it right?
Yeah.
Then it would be a no way because of how vocal. What's his name? What LeVar was back then. I think now that they've kind of cut LeVar out of the whole situation, it's not quite the same. So, it's just weird. Now, does that take them out of the Russell Westbrook situation because they drafted a point guard? What happens with Devontae Graham? I guess Devontae's more of a 2 guard. They paid Terry Rozier a lot of money last year. But LaMelo is the top guy on a lot of people's draft boards. So I guess they went with the best available, which yes, you're right. To me, in the past, I would say it is surprising because they normally don't go with the best available. They go with some random shit.
Right. I mean, I'm kind of speechless about this pick just because I just don't think LaMelo is going to be any good. We got somebody in the chat calling me a hater, and that's fine. But I watched a lot of. I mean, I'm not a professional scout like you, Joey, were formerly, and still could be to this day. But I watched a lot of LaMelo Ball, and he's just not. He just didn't blow me away.
Alex Smith says you sound like a La hater, or do I sound like a La hater, Alex Smith, or does Alex sound like Alex?
Is he calling me an LA hater, or did he spell hater wrong?
I don't know. He says got LaMelo. You sound like La hater. He also said the Warriors are dumb for not drafting LaMelo.
This is actually Alex Smith, right?
This is actually Alex Smith, comeback player of the year in the NFL, potentially.
Right.
I don't know. Alex Smith on YouTube, a commenter. He might be right that they were dumb for not taking LaMelo. Now seeing, especially if the Klay injury is really bad, because if he's coming off of a torn ACL and now coming back with a torn Achilles, I'm not sure how much longer he's got left at a high level. Like, he'll obviously play again, and we know guys come back from injuries better than they ever have in the past. But man, it's hard to see a guy going ACL, Achilles, and coming back anywhere near what he was.
Exactly. And he's not a guy that relies too heavily on athleticism, so that's a good thing. But the thing in my mind is that this Warriors window it's not wide open. It's at the back end. Like, in my mind, they were a legitimate title contender this year if they were healthy. And, Klay Thompson, again, we're assuming that this is a torn Achilles. We don't know that officially yet. Right. If it is, he's not going to be Klay Thompson again until the middle of next season. And you've got an aging Steph Curry. My question to you is, do you think that this news had any impact on their selection, or, them not trading back? Do you think that would be enough? Like, this news would alter their draft strategy?
That they think they need to now focus even more on the future because they're probably not going to be good again.
Right. That's what I mean.
Not championship level. It's possible. I don't know. A lot of people were saying that they were high on Wiseman all leading up to this draft. So I actually don't remember a time where LaMelo was a target for them. So
right. No, but I saw. Did you see the report today that they were infatuated with Denny, and that they were about to trade back?
Well, clearly a lot of people were not as high on that guy as we thought until the 9. Let's see what else. So LaMelo to Charlotte. We'll see. They get a name, which is something a big name. Like Kemba was a name, but LaMelo was the name of this draft. So they land the star, so to speak, of this draft, which it's rare to get in Charlotte. So if he's a 6'7" point guard who, by all accounts, can do a lot of things that even his brother couldn't do. He's bigger, he could shoot better, all that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. 4 is where things already started to get a little loopy. Patrick Williams from Florida State goes 4 to the Bulls. Shocking to a lot of people. I read this earlier in the week. I was surprised to see that he was getting this kind of love. And we talked about him, freak athlete. He's going to be a wing player at the next level, but he was a 6 man at Florida State. He averaged 9 points a game. He's for a team that is already very young, but has pieces, and probably needs to get a little bit older and guys who can play right now. This seemed like a really strange pick.
Yeah, I felt the same.
Fans on the Twitter were not happy.
I was so kind of excited for the Bulls when we did. It wasn't like an official team preview, but we previewed the Bulls a little bit. I was excited for them. I really thought this pick is going to be pivotal in how quickly they get good. And I'm just not really high on Patrick Williams. That's not to say he couldn't come out and be a really great player.
It's hard to be high on a guy that you just don't even watching him in college. You don't really know a whole lot about him.
I know. Yeah, he just strikes me as a super athletic, unpolished guy that you might not know what you have in 2 or 3 years. Which maybe Chicago is not as hasty as we thought to compete. But this isn't like a move the needle type of pick like they could have made with, honestly, Obi Toppin or Denny or something like that.
Yep. And then right after that, Isaac Okoro goes to the Cavs, another athletic wing player who probably needs to improve his range. Not really sure. I mean, it's fine. They just need to get talent. I don't mind that pick for them. 6, Hawks take Onyeka Ngakwu or Okongwu. Sorry.
Well, Joey, I don't want to cut you off, but we have another comment in here, and it's something we do definitely need to address. Our boy,
yeah, we will. I was gonna bring that up in a second, but Bogdanovic. I'm not really sure. Our guy Medahan here is he put Bogdanovic question mark. I don't know if that means he wants us to talk about him or if he thinks he's good for the Bulls because he commented while we were talking about the Bulls, but we'll see. Okongwu. I'm sorry, guys. Okongwu. 5th overall to the Hawks. Oh,
police are coming.
Here we go. For those of you who are new to the show that are watching the live stream for the first time, Alex lives in Fury Road. Crazy things happen all the time in his place, so that's where the sirens are coming from. I thought this was an interesting pick by the Hawks, only just because I would have thought maybe they would trade out of the 6th pick and try to go get a vet. They have Clint Capella, and they drafted a center 6 overall. Clint Capella is not young, and he also makes a decent amount of money, so he's going to play. But maybe they're high on him. Who knows? Anything? You got anything on that pick?
No, to me, this just seems like they went best player available, and they had him graded higher than other people did.
Yeah,
to me.
7th, Pistons take Killian Hayes. Pistons are an interesting team. They, before the draft started, traded for the 16th pick. They had the 7th pick. They traded for the 16th pick with it was a Portland pick that I think was in OKC, and then they traded with OKC and they got the 16th pick. So, and then Detroit also, then there was another trade that just recently happened that was, let me see. I think I actually have it pulled up right here. The Clippers sent Landry Shamet to the Nets. The Pistons sent Luke Kennard to the Clippers, and the Pistons got the 19th pick and selected Sadiq Bey. It makes me think that that something's coming from the Nets. But in terms of the Pistons take Killian Hayes, who a lot of people think is the best point guard in the draft. He's an overseas kid. They get Isaiah Stewart, a big from Washington, and they get Sadiq Bey, who's he's a Villanova guy. He's up in your neck of the woods. Pistons getting young, trading away their best shooter, getting younger and younger. I wonder if Troy Weaver is getting ready to make another move because he's got a lot of young players now. They're going to stink this year.
Sorry, Joe. Who ended up with Shamet? That's what this trade has been confusing me. The Nets get Shamet. I love that. Yeah, and if you're the Pistons, trading away your best shooter in Luke Kennard does not make a ton of sense.
I don't know. I don't know what that move is.
Pistons have been in a very weird stage the past 3 to 4 years, honestly. I mean, they're like nothing they really have been doing make a ton of sense to me. So, but I just love this for the Nets. Just adding Shamet's a really good shooter. He really is. I think starting his career in Philly with JJ Redick, like he accelerated his growth quicker than I think a lot of people thought. He learned a lot from JJ Redick in his rookie year before he got traded. That's a nice piece for the Nets.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. I mean, yeah, he's a good player. I'm not sure that I'm not really sure if any of these guys that are on the Nets right now are going to be on the Nets.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean? Did the Nets trade the 19th pick to get Landry Shamet to put him in a package to get James Harden so they have more players instead of trading a pick that Houston potentially didn't want? Because now you can add Shamet to Dinwiddie, LeVert, Jared Allen, future picks. You know, I think they might be just loading up to get more assets to get James Harden. And then who was it? Yeah, Kennard to the Clippers is great. I love Kennard to the Clippers. I think Luke Kennard's a really good player, and he's going to be great for them off the bench. He might eventually start for them too if they go small at points. Let's see. Obi Toppin to the Knicks. Love that.
I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to fall that far, right? That's kind of one of the surprises of the draft, I would say. I mean,
I think like a month ago, yes, but it seemed like he was consistently dropping. I think the Knicks weren't expecting him to be there at 8, and that was their guy. I told you, CAA guy, going to the CAA run team now, and I love him. I think he's a top 3 guy. I think he is the most athletic player in this draft to me. This guy is catching lobs from half court. This guy dunks on everybody, and he can step out and he can shoot the 3. He's a really good player to me, and I think he's fine. I mean, people are crushing the Knicks already because now they have like 17 power forwards on their roster. Right. But hopefully, they make a move with some of these other guys. I think he can play next to Julius Randle if they choose to do that. Or if they make a move for Russell Westbrook. Now you have 2 freaks on the floor at all time. I mean, it's a great pick. They clearly picked the best guy available, and the best guy available just happened to be a guy that they might have taken 1 if they had the first pick.
Mm-hmm. The thing that jumped out to me is just the fit. Like, he's just not a ball dominant player. Like, he can impact the game a ton of different ways, but he's not going to take the ball out of RJ Barrett's hands. Or if they bring in Russell Westbrook, he just slides right in there. And yeah, they have a million power forwards, but they're not. We don't know what kind of rush the Knicks are in. Are they going to be? I mean, they have flexibility to trade for a really good player and fight for that 7 or 8 seed this year, or just kind of ride it out and let their young guys develop. So I think they definitely made the right move in not trading up. I had read a report that they might have been looking to trade up to get their boy Toppin.
Yeah.
Letting him fall to you at 8 is beautiful if you're a Knicks fan.
Yeah, for sure. I like it. I think Knicks fans are going to love him too. Denny Avdija goes 9th. You texted me earlier today. I guess you were watching some tape, and you said Denny's the best player in the draft.
I think this is the best pick in the draft. Yeah, and again, you can say that about anybody at any given draft at any point in time. You just don't know until these guys get on the floor. But he looks polished, strong. And where are you on Rui Hachimura? I mean, this is like two really solid wing players, like solid wing players.
I think I'm higher on this kid than I was on Rui. Rui's a fine player.
Mm-hmm.
I think this kid has more of a wing potential. I think Rui's more of a stretch four. This kid has a wing, like ball handler potential. And I saw highlights of him pulling up from three. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but I think probably not to compare him to Luka, but like Luka's 3-point numbers, I don't think were incredible in Europe. So I don't really. It doesn't seem like the numbers for these guys in their European leagues really translates 1-to-1 when it comes to the NBA. So I think it could be, I think he could be pretty good. I didn't watch a ton of tape on him, but again, another guy this just shows how crazy this draft is, right? Another guy who up until today, most people thought was going top 4, top 5 at the latest.
Yep.
It's to 9. My only thing here, my immediate thought here, and I'm sorry if I have any Wizard fans listening to this, but the last time a Euro player dropped and went to the Wizards, it was Jan Vesely, who I was very high on, and he stunk. He was awful. So I'm assuming this kid can't be worse than that, but that's where my mind goes.
Gotcha. How about this? If Brad Beal gets traded before the start of the season, I will be putting some money on him for Rookie of the Year. I think that opens up a really good value bet for Denny. A flyer, of course.
I'm going to check where he's at right now. 10th overall pick, Jalen Smith to Phoenix. You know what's interesting about this one to me? James Jones is just not he just doesn't get talked about a lot for the job he does. And I saw a lot of Phoenix fans on Twitter getting a little frustrated, like that this kid would have been around later in the first. They could have traded down, and people just saying it was a high pick. You know what? Who else was who they did that to? Cam Johnson last year. He got crushed for taking Cam Johnson as high as he did, and Cam Johnson's a really good player. James Johnson, unlike a lot of GMs, seems to pinpoint a guy that he really likes, and he just goes and gets him no matter where he's at. And it looks like that's what he did again with Jalen Smith, who's another 6'9"-ish 4 who can shoot the ball. Can never have too many of those.
Definitely can't have enough young ones to develop, for sure. I mean, it's all upside in Phoenix right now. And I mean, God, I keep thinking about that Chris Paul trade, and I'm just so excited. Because I think that's the 8th seed in the West. I really do.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's roll through some of these. Devin Vassell goes 11th to to the Spurs out of Florida State. He's actually the guy from Florida State that I would have taken in the top 10. I love Devin. I love him. He's a 6'6", 6'7" wing who can shoot the ball and defend. When I watched him at Florida State, there was struck me like could be like a Chris Middleton type in the NBA. I mean, he can really score it. The only thing is, this video came out on Twitter a little while ago of his shot, and it looked like they were messing with it, and it looked pretty jacked up. But really? If there was just an outlier in his shots and they didn't change his shot, this kid probably should have been a top 10 pick. And I'm probably biased because of the Florida State thing, but he can really play.
Okay. I'll be honest, it's not a guy I watched a ton of. So I will take your word for it.
Yep. Tyrese Halliburton goes to the Kings. So now we're at the Kings. So let's get Bogdan Bogdanovic. Let's talk Kings for a second. The most interesting thing that NBA fans want to talk about, right? The Kings.
I think it's more interesting in terms of the Bucks aspect.
Right. So
in the Bucks face.
Yeah. So apparently NCCU Dog says he's a great player. I'm guessing he's talking about Bogdanovic. I agree with that. I think he can be a great player for the Bucks. I don't think the Kings are very good. And so here's the deal. Here's what happened with the Bucks trade and Bogdanovic. Apparently the Kings in Kings fashion made this agreement to sign and trade Bogdan Bogdanovic to the Bucks, and both teams as a unit said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring this proposal to him on Friday when he can sign a contract. They didn't say to him ahead of time. They can't tamper correctly, apparently, because Bogdanovic didn't know that this deal was getting made, and he wants to test the market. So the deal is done. He's going into Friday as a restricted free agent. He's going to look for a different sign and trade situation. He's going to see what the market can get him. And, hey, this if it's going to happen to anyone, it's going to happen to the Kings. But it sucks for the Bucks. It's crazy for the Bucks too, because all of this was like the Bucks made their moves. They're going to keep Giannis, and it doesn't look like it.
I mean, does this not make you a little bit more weary of giving up that much for Drew Holiday as well? Like now all this is starting to seem, it's starting to seem more like a last ditch effort as opposed to this calculated operation to tighten up the Milwaukee Bucks for 2021. Like, I don't know how you let this happen. I definitely don't know how you let it get out, Like, this is one that was contingent on something pretty important, This deal was contingent on him not testing the market, and he does, and it blows up in their face. And honestly, I didn't see anyone even bring this up as a possibility when the news broke late. What was that, Monday night? Mm-hmm. Something like that. Like, no one.
Didn't I ask that on the podcast? Like, I don't understand how they can do a sign and trade with a restricted free agent.
Right, and you assumed that these front office people had it all buttoned up. Apparently, they didn't.
You assume that the Kings front office had something buttoned up?
No, I thought because we were talking about how vastly important this is to the Bucks' future, so I assumed they had this all buttoned up and weren't going to leave it to the Kings to not have checked with him.
Who knows what the Kings told the Bucks and took them at their? I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know, but it's not. Got it. You can't. Either team right now, you can't feel good. Like, but if you're a Bucks fan, you got to feel super nervous. I saw some Heat fans tweeting like, "Hey, let's go get Bogdanovic."
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he's going to get a huge. I mean,
but imagine. But think about it. If you're any team in the East right now, like any contending team in the East, if you're able to pull off a deal for Bogdanovic now, not only are you pulling off a deal for Bogdanovic, but you're potentially stealing Giannis away from the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the assets Milwaukee was giving, it was DiVincenzo and DJ Wilson, right? I mean, they're pissed, right? If they're playing they know they're not even really wanted. I mean, I'm sure they understand the business side of it, but it can't be great for chemistry. Yeah. Man, I just don't know how you let that happen. I think that's like a low-key, a really important storyline from draft night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of that, as far as the Kings go, they draft Tyrese Halliburton, who's one of the best point guards in the draft. I think you have a point guard on your roster that is looking for a contract extension in De'Aaron Fox, unless I'm mistaken. Now, Tyrese Halliburton's a 6'5" point guard who they could potentially play next to each other. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're like, we're getting rid of Bogdanovic. We're potentially getting rid of Buddy Hield. We'll try to develop these guys to play next to each other. But if I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm like, hold up. I haven't got my extension yet. And you just traded for a point guard. Or you just drafted a point guard. Not happy.
I'm looking at it the reverse angle in that De'Aaron Fox and his agent have already made it clear, like, I'm not signing here long term. So they're just kind of hedging their bets in the point guard department. I don't know. If I'm De'Aaron Fox, I'm just not. I know that max contract is tantalizing, but like, you're ruining your career. Boogie Cousins, look at him. Look, Boogie Cousins had Hall of Fame potential. I mean, again, you can't help the injuries, but like, they ruined the beginning of his career.
Yeah,
we don't know how good Buddy Hield could have been if he was in an organization that's not completely inept. So
he was originally in New Orleans, but yeah,
right.
Well, I mean, that's enough talking about the Kings. Who cares?
That's the point. Yep.
13th pick, Kira Lewis Jr. to New Orleans. Good pick. I'm fine with it. It's, we don't know. They just traded for 2 other point guards in Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. They have a point guard in Lonzo Ball. Now they have a 4th point guard in Kira Lewis Jr. This seems like, if Lonzo doesn't work out, boom, we got Kira Lewis Jr. But whatever. That's that one's fine. You know why? Because I just like getting assets from my guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
new listeners, new viewers, we got awesome drops for you.
It's hard to do the drops when I'm going back and forth between the board.
Yeah, we should make it clear there is no third engineer here. This is a 2-man show, fellas.
Yeah. So why are you saying fellas?
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. By the way, NCCU Dog said he was talking about Vassell, that this guy or female lives in ACC country, says Devin Vassell is a great player. So, all right, we'll see. You might be right. Celtics get the guy considered to be the best shooter in the draft, Aaron Nesmith from Vanderbilt. Good pick. They need depth. They need a little bit of everything on that bench. Their bench was awful. So, and you know why that pick also sticks out to me? I was looking up until that point. All these picks are. Why are people not drafting shooters?
That's kind of what jumped out at me too.
You know what? It like in a draft where it's like we don't know if any of these guys are even good, right? We don't know who's what. You have this guy Aaron Nesmith, who everyone says is the best shooter in the draft. How does he go 14th in a draft where you don't know who's good? Now, I don't, I don't really know. I don't know because I didn't watch as much tape as these experts. I just don't understand. Like, to me, why not go get a guy that can contribute one great thing earlier than 14th? Looks like it could be a potential steal for the Celtics at 14th.
That was the pick I wrote down in terms of just like value. Jay Billis was raving about his shoot. He said 3 different times he's the best shooter in the draft, hands down, matter of fact. So I'm just thinking, like, if you're in New Orleans or you're the King, I guess the Kings, it makes more sense to swing for the fences, but team like New Orleans, instead of drafting a 4th point guard on your roster, why not get the best shooter in the draft?
I got to think that David Griffin's going to be moving Bledsoe or Hill or both.
Right.
I don't see them going into the season with 4 point guards, especially like Bledsoe can play. You're not going to not play Lonzo, and then you just drafted another point guard in the lottery. So we'll see what happens. Oh, Celtics just took Peyton Pritchard, 26. By the way, maybe the second best shooter in the draft, Peyton Pritchard from Oregon. So Danny Ainge clearly knew what they were missing, right? Bench scoring. And he went out and got 2 guys who can score, who can fill it up. I love that. Boston are winners right off the bat for me. My guy Steve Clifford in Orlando gets Cole Anthony. Gary Parrish, I had Gary Parrish. I talked to him the other day from CBS Sports, draft expert. By the way, 14 of the 15 guys he had going in the top 15 in his mock draft went in the mock draft. Sadiq Bey was the only guy he had in the top 15 that didn't go in his mock draft. So, hey, Gary Parrish kind of knows some stuff about basketball. He said, I asked him, who's the guy who could potentially drop out of the lottery, who could be a franchise player? He said Cole Anthony.
I believe it. It's a shame he's going to the Magic.
Why?
But it's just I lump the Magic in. They're like a tier above Sacramento, but they're just been toiling since Dwight Howard, really. I don't know. They're not an exciting franchise, and I'm a Cole Anthony fan. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, they also have
well. Yeah, I was going to say, do you think he pairs well with Fultz? Make Fultz more?
No, I think it's more of a we see which one is our guy and we go with him, and then we move the other one type of situation. I don't know that, but it's just what I think. 16th pick, we already talked about that says on here, obviously, if you're watching the live stream, that the Blazers, that was originally the Blazers that went to OKC, that went to Detroit. 17th pick is a Oklahoma City pick. It says on here, Timberwolves. They traded 2 picks to move up to 17. and take this guy who I've never heard of, power forward from Serbia. But if you're the Thunder, why not take a chance on a guy at this point when you're totally rebuilding?
Yep.
So let's see. Mavericks take Josh Green, kid from Arizona, really good player. Just provides depth for them. They another team that doesn't have a ton of play. They're probably going to have to keep retooling their bench with guys that can play with Doncic, with Luka. So there you go. Sadiq Bey, we already talked about, also going to the Pistons. Miami takes Precious Achiuwa from Memphis with the 20th pick. Again, another guy who I didn't get to see a ton of at this season, but was a extremely highly rated recruit by Penny Hardaway at Memphis. Had a solid freshman year from everything I see. The Heat need size. They really just have Bam as their big, and then Kelly Olynyk is on the last year of his deal, but he's not like a big time. He's not a defensive player. Myers Leonard's a free agent. Who knows if he comes back? But they didn't play him a ton in the playoffs. This guy is supposedly like an elite athlete. Obviously, the first thing it says right here: elite physical profile and an ideal defensive versatility. So, looks like a guy who can. Doesn't seem as though he'll be able to play with Bam, but a good backup. Makes sense that they went with him over Vernon Carey because it looks like athletically his upside is higher. Vernon Carey, even though supposedly he lost 20, 30 pounds or so since the season ended, is not like an explosive athlete like this kid is. So it says on here, poor free throw shooter, but made 32.5% of his 43-point attempts this year. So I guess he's one of those has the tools but needs to improve kind of guy, which seems like most of this draft.
And we're definitely in no position to be doubting Miami's, mid-round drafting abilities with what they've done in the two most recent drafts. Right. So, I mean,
yeah, of course. I'm rolling with Pat. If Pat says he's the guy, I'm rolling with Pat. So I like it for Miami. They needed a big. They definitely. They just need more depth all around. Miami. The question was, was Miami going to keep the pick? Were they going to trade the pick? I think it makes sense that they kept the pick and got a player. Now we just see what happens. All signs seem to be pointing to the fact that Miami will run it back with the same team this season. Now that we're still not really sure what's going on with Giannis, who knows? Is the Giannis thing back in play? Brad Beal, there was an article that came out earlier today that he wants the team to improve to a playoff team, even though he has been insistent he's not getting traded. Is Beal in play? They'll be a more interesting team, as the offseason goes on, maybe during the season. They have some expiring deals. Andre Iguodala and Kelly Olynyk are both expiring, so those could potentially be deals that they move to get a better player. But Achiuwa seems like a pretty good player. We mentioned your guys up in Philly get Tyrese Maxey, who I think could be a steal. He's going to be a flat out bucket getter. He's a little bit of an undersized two guard, but he's a bucket getter. He's like he's not Colin Sexton. He's not a point guard, but he has like a little bit better range than Colin Sexton did in college, but he struck me as that type of scoring guard.
Okay.
Undersized guy who can just get buckets.
How tall is he? Oh, he's undersized. Okay. I don't love that.
Well, he's undersized for a 2.
Right.
6'3".
I'm excited, and I didn't really watch too much of him, but I know when we didn't have our draft episode, but one of the guys you did flag as like kind of this middle late round possible steal was Tyrese Maxey. So when we were live on here and Sixers took him, I perked up a little bit, Joe.
Yeah, but the big news for you and for all you Philly fans today was Big Daryl already making things happen for you guys. Figured out. Well, you know what he did? Here's what Big Daryl did. Big Daryl Morey out there in Philly. You know what he said? He looked around the league and he said, "Who loves draft picks?" There's got to be somebody out there who really loves draft picks.
Like more than anything.
Like more than anything in the world. Is there a guy that runs an NBA team that would divorce his wife for a draft pick? That would put his kids up for adoption for a draft pick? That would
kill a man?
That would kill a man for a draft pick? And he was looking around. And he's like, David Griffin, no. Danny Ainge, yeah, he likes draft picks, but he's not the guy. Nets, I don't think they haven't. Sam Presti likes draft picks. And you know,
this guy really likes draft picks.
This guy, Sam Presti. Oh, he likes draft picks. Sam Presti likes draft picks. You know what? I don't even know where to look. It's good for you. I'll say this. It's good for you. It's good for you guys because Al Horford is now in Oklahoma City. They traded Al Horford in a future first, right?
Yeah, it's like a 2025 pick. So I don't. Is Sam Presti trying to spin off like a second team or something? He's going to try to like. He has so many picks in the next 5 years. They can't even possibly roster them all.
Just in case anyone was wondering about the news here.
Yeah.
But so Danny Green. And Danny Green goes back.
And Terrence Ferguson, our boy.
That's right, your boy. That's not
my boy, yeah.
Give the people the stat.
I don't remember the stat off the top of my head. It's insane. But he was the first NBA player, I'm going to ballpark this, something like this. First NBA player ever to average at least 20 minutes per game and less than, I want to say, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and what was it, 5 points or something? It was absurd. It was absurd. The amount of minutes he played for his lack of production was unparalleled. And that's not to say he couldn't be decent, but like no one has played 20 minutes a game ever and produced that little.
What happened was when Daryl Morey was looking around and saying, who loves draft picks? Who loves draft picks? Sam Presti was looking around and saying, is there a GM out there who loves guys that chuck up shots? Is there a guy out there who just loves chuckers? Because I'm going to get that guy to take Terrence Ferguson off my hands. And that's what he did to Daryl Morey. But it was worth it to get rid of that Al Horford contract.
It's amazing. I said it. I think I said it the day the season ended, the day the Sixers season ended. I said, there's an issue with Ben Simmons and Embiid. Can they play together? Yada, yada, yada. The number one issue and the number one thing on the agenda for the Sixers is to get this contract out of here because it's horrible. I guess the Thunder think they can flip him at the deadline. I have no idea, but he's making $27 million for the next 3 years. Like and he's shot. He really is shot. Maybe he was dinged up, but I think he's way, way, way over the hill. So I'm thrilled. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah. Daryl Morey, hell of a move.
Got to think Danny Green's on the move again eventually from you guys. Like you don't really need him, and he's on an expiring deal, so you got to think there's a chance that
right.
deal can be on.
Okay, it wouldn't shock me if they could. I mean, they think they can compete, so why not have an extra 3-and-D veteran? I don't know.
He does win championships.
He has that pedigree. Yep,
he does win He has become the NBA mercenary. Went to Toronto for a year and won a title. Went to the Lakers for a year and won a title. So if that means anything for Philly, maybe you keep him. Maybe that's what Daryl Morey's looking at. He loves analytics. That's 100% right there in the last 2 years. Danny Green has won 100% of the championships the last 2 years.
That's a stat.
So it's possible that that's what Daryl Morey was looking at. Big numbers guy. Philly's the analytics team now.
Yeah, they really are. And I'm thrilled about it. Poor Danny Green, he gets death threats from Lakers fans. Then he thinks he's going to somewhere a little more mellow in Oklahoma City. And nope, he ends up in Philly, who are just as likely to be absolute dicks to him when he's not shooting well. So
yeah,
that stinks.
OKC. So number at 22, the Nuggets took Zeke Nnaji, power forward from Arizona, pretty good player. They have a lot of bigs. I think they seem to have a lot of bigs, but hey, that's another executive that Tim Connolly out there in Denver. I trust what he does because he seems to know talent. He hits on a lot of draft picks. The Knicks Now, this 23rd pick, I need to double check if this pick belongs to the Knicks. Leandro Bolmaro, Brazilian guy. This is a guy who Mike Schmitz, the guy on ESPN, said was like his favorite player in the draft.
He's going to Minnesota, according to Woj.
Okay, got it. So this is a Minnesota pick. Okay, fair. Yeah, well, now we're getting to this part of the end of the first round where I don't know these guys very well.
Not only do we not know the guys that well, but it's also getting confusing who's actually drafting them because the NBA will not.
Yeah, unless Woj, we might as well just follow Woj.
Yeah,
which we pretty much have been doing up until like this part of the podcast. Let's see. New Orleans. Oh, the Nuggets got RJ Hampton too.
Yes, I saw that. I didn't want to cut you off.
No,
the Nuggets have upside out the wazoo. Like
they really do.
Can you imagine if Bol turns into something? Like the upside on that team is pretty ridiculous.
Bol is going to turn into something.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I'm just saying you've got dudes flying under the radar that weren't even getting minutes in the playoffs. They bring in RJ Hampton. Tell me about RJ Hampton, Joey.
I mean, I didn't get to see him play. Kid went overseas.
You didn't go over to see him?
No,
you're a scout, bro. You're supposed to be.
Got canceled because of the Rona.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, the Knicks, that trade for Bolmaro, they ended up getting the 25th pick, so that Emmanuel quickly from Kentucky goes to the Knicks. We talked about it on the podcast. There was thoughts that New York would become the Kentucky pipeline because of Leon Rose and World Wide West's connection to John Calipari. So quickly goes to the Knicks. We talked about Peyton Pritchard to Boston. Toronto just took Malachi Flynn from San Diego State. So we're getting to that point where first round's pretty much over. Any takeaways? I mean, any takeaways just from the first round?
I keep going back to this Naismith pick by the Celtics. Like that. Yeah. That's just, and then they take allegedly another top 5 shooter in the draft in Pritchard. They have a third pick here. I'm assuming.
I'll tell you what, man. The kid is an absolute gunner. Like
Pritchard, you're talking about.
He went in the first round, but they probably looked at him and said, "This kid is one of the best shooters in the draft. We're not going to wait and see if someone else gets him."
Right, because they're drafting for need. They're in a position where they can do either. They can draft best player available or draft for a need because they know they're going to be really, really good next year.
By the way, doesn't hurt that he looks like that and he's going to Boston. They're going to love him.
He looks. I can't really see that. He looks like somebody. I can't put my finger on it. But they have the last pick in the first round. Something tells me they're going to take a shooter. Other takeaways. Let's see.
That probably already in. We're just not looking at Woj.
Yeah, that's true.
I love it. Boston traded the 30th pick to Memphis.
Nah.
So, all right. So that's it for the first round. Well, we don't know who the 30th pick is yet, but we'll find out here in a second. That's it for the first round. Yeah, I think I love the Knicks draft. Getting getting Obi Toppin and getting a kid from Kentucky that maybe flew under the radar. Who knows? Maybe they might have stretched for him because of the relationship. But hey, I think your team is a winner because you get that other Kentucky kid and you get the Horford contract out of there. Who else?
A big takeaway for me is the lack of huge moves. I really did think James Harden was going to be on the move during this first round. I don't know why. I just thought that trade was going to happen.
Well, regardless of Harden too, right? Like they made it seem like Woj and Shams and all those guys made it seem like there was going to be tons of big moves.
Yeah, like mayhem, and which we didn't see really any of it. The biggest stuff came out beforehand in Bogdanovic and the Horford trade.
Yeah, I guess I'm not totally surprised.
We're definitely not out of the woods yet. We're on pace for like a 5-hour draft here, so I mean something could come down the pipe
right
in the next couple hours.
Let's see, what else did I write down here? Point guard slipping. Oh, a couple like non-basketball related takeaways from so far in the first round. One was, I don't understand if the NBA is not going to have the draft in person, then why would they not call agents and be like, hey, control your clients' draft parties? Some of these draft parties are such a bad look for the NBA. Like Isaac Okoro, who went with the 5th pick, I'm pretty sure he rented out like an arena and had a super spreader event. Because, and I'm just,
I shouldn't be laughing. I should not be laughing, but
no, I'm just saying, but like if you're the league, you can. The Celtics got. Oh, that's an old trade. Okay. Sorry, I'm watching the broadcast too, and they're recapping an old trade. But like you can hold the draft in person without fans. You could test all the prospects and their families, and you would have less total people in an area who have all been tested than are at these absurd, like the Ball house. There was like 50 people. None of them were wearing masks. That the Isaac Okoro thing. Now, some of the places it seemed a little calmer, but who knows how many people are off camera? It's just like, what are we doing here? Like, just have it in person.
Right. No. So I guess what's going through my mind is like, they're not in the NBA yet. They're not under contract. You can't really control what they do, but you can definitely control not sending a camera there. Like you don't take that feed when
just tell the. I mean, my guess is the agents did not, or the league did not call the agents and say, "Hey guys, we're sending a camera. Just chill out, dude."
Right.
Like, don't have like I'm looking right now. Desmond Bane. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people on camera. 5 of them are wearing masks. That's better than most of the places. That's better than most of the places I've seen on this broadcast. That's the 30th pick in the draft. That kid wouldn't have been there live anyways.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. My thing is just don't show it. I don't know. I mean, this is the biggest. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this is the biggest day of these people's lives. Like, how can you really control how they spend it? You know?
No, I'm not saying you can control it. I'm saying, I wonder if they even if there was even any like type of, did they even tell them like, hey, just try to control yourselves?
Right.
Then the other thing was, and I thought this at the NFL draft, they are a little bit better in the NBA. They've been a little better at the NBA draft, but this actually, Nas Little tweeted this. I don't know how well you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Can we normalize not talking about players' darkest moments during the draft?
Yeah. It was really out of control. NFL draft struck me.
Well, the NFL draft was terrible because they were like putting these people's like grew up with a single mom who had to work 17 jobs on the graphic.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even like part of the packages. It was in the graphic. I'm just saying, like, they even do it in here. It's like you're sitting next to your mother who's been through some terrible tragedies in your life. Okay, will you please cry on camera, grown man? Like, they're trying to get every player to cry. I'm sick of seeing these guys cry. I mean, I get it. Some of them are going to cry. But, like, let them cry of happiness and stop making them cry because you're bringing up how hard life has been.
Right.
Like, we get it. Their lives have been hard generally, most of them probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we understand that. That's the story of professional athletes. Let them enjoy it without bringing up the darkest moments of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Or let them bring it up. If a guy wants to mention it in his interview, sure. But like, you're almost like ESPN is like pandering to these sob stories where it doesn't do much for me. And I can't imagine it does much for other people, because we've seen it so many times. Like
it's so hard to watch when they do it.
Yeah. And it's also just so much better when a guy does it organically. Like if a guy is moved to the point where he wants to bring that up, and it catches you off guard, and this guy's having the happiest moment of his life and he brings up his his troubled past or like the difficulties. Then it's organic and it's like, oh wow, like I really feel for this. But when ESPN is spoon feeding you tragedy, it's like,
yeah,
it doesn't have the same effect at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love the draft. Like it wasn't a great draft, like in terms of excitement ahead of time, but then 5 minutes before the draft, I was like, all right, I love it. Drafts in general are just so fun.
Yeah.
Any other news, non-draft related NBA wise, that we are missing that we needed to hit tonight?
I think we hit it pretty good. Hold on, let me do a little.
We always hit it pretty good.
Yeah, we did. We hit it pretty good. The Klay Thompson thing is the big question mark, and it absolutely blows.
Yes. I got an alert from Yahoo as we were. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, the Rubio trade. Ricky Rubio back in Minnesota.
What was the package there?
The Thunder sent Ricky. That was how the Thunder got the 17th pick.
Mm-hmm.
That they took the overseas kid. They sent the 25th and the 28th pick and Ricky Rubio to Minnesota for the 17th pick.
That seems like straight up tanking, especially if this dude from Serbia doesn't play this year. Like they're like, okay, Ricky Rubio could actually help us win a couple extra games, so we're going to get him off the roster.
Yeah, but it's fun that Ricky Rubio is back in.
Oh yeah, that's a great move for Minnesota.
Point guard, and he can play with D'Lo. That's a team that's probably trying to win some games.
I mean, he's immediately one of the better backup point guards in the league right away.
Or he could start with D'Lo, depending on what they put together. Yeah. Oh, no. Anthony Edwards is more of a 2.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's going to start at the 2, but Ricky Rubio as your guy running the second unit is exciting.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's a good. But what I was going to say about the report I got, or the alert I got, was, here it was 30 minutes ago. Warriors fear Klay Thompson suffered significant Achilles injury. So our guy, I got rid of his tweet, but our guy, who I've never heard of, that I pulled up earlier in the show, apparently maybe he was right. He said Klay Thompson has a torn Achilles.
Yeah. What was the thing he said he was right on? The other thing?
Rudy Gobert having COVID.
Yeah. I kind of vaguely remember that. I remember like someone I had never heard of was the tweet I saw first, and I don't know. That sucks. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
How about this? And this isn't like good news or anything like this, but I almost drove over the bridge to New Jersey to place a futures bet on the Warriors title hopes today. I'm not even kidding. The site I use cannot be you cannot place bets in Philadelphia. So I almost took the time to drive over the bridge to New Jersey, place a lot of money on the Warriors, and now that looks like that is not.
By the way, our guy Sean Tracy, underdog guy, ESPN, always with the sob stories, can't stand it. Yep, we're with you, Sean. You know the only sob story that should be talked about tonight in the NBA? Klay Thompson tearing his Achilles. That's the sob story. You want to make people cry, you should have said James Wiseman. How do you feel about going to the Warriors and probably not winning games this year because your second best player is not going to play?
Do you think that would have made him cry? I doubt it.
Oh, he was already crying. So at least he's just crying, but we're not talking about how he struggled. Yeah. NCCU dog. Thompson news is quite brutal. There is no question about that. It will be interesting to see how they maneuver now going forward. Like you said, do they make a move? Do they try to get better? I don't understand. I don't know what it is. Do they try to? I mean, I guess you're not packaging Wiseman, right? But do you try to package Wiggins and future picks or something to try to go get a player who can help you win this year? Because without Klay, where are they in the West without Klay?
Oh man, they drop significantly. I mean, they're a playoff. They're absolutely a playoff team with Steph. I mean,
healthy Steph.
Yeah.
If he's like the Steph we know.
Yeah.
You know.
God, I still think they're a lock for the playoffs even without Klay, as long as Steph is healthy and Wiggins is. I don't know. I'm kind of with you that with Steph on his last legs, you got to go out. You move Wiggins, maybe Wiseman, and take another shot at it. That's what I think.
Do you trade? Do you trade Steph? trade Steph. Go like really go for it. This kid that's supposed to be in the draft next year, Amani Bates, is like he's supposed to be next.
Oh, you're saying trade Steph and just go full tank, just start over?
Yeah, like I think Amani Bates is next year. Or let me double check what class he's in. But this kid, like if you could tank to get this kid, he's supposed to be like the next like big time like star.
Well, they've got that guy on their roster and Andrew Wiggins. Like you can't bank on that shit happening. It's just not going to happen.
That's true. All right. Well, I think that's probably going to do it, man. Right?
That is a solid show. Solid show.
Appreciate all of you guys consistently had viewers throughout this thing. I was kind of surprised. That's good. If you're listening, obviously, do your thing, subscribe, rate, and review. Anybody, if you're watching this, hit the like button on the video. Hit subscribe to the Underdog. We're gonna be doing more of these. I think the plan is to do a live show per week, but all of our episodes going forward, we're gonna post. So, and we do this show 5 days a week. NBA Morning Deuce, NCC. My guy here, killing it. Bates is seen as a KD type, so that I think I think our guy NCCU dog here is taking a shot at you, Alex. Oh, he's the Wiggins. NCCU dog says Bates is seen as a KD type, not Andrew Wiggins, KD type, my friend.
Okay.
So if you knew that the next KD was coming, would you trade Steph Curry?
Yeah. If it was absolutely locked in that he's the next KD, I think I would do it.
All right. That's going to do it. Oh, Vernon Carey Jr. just got picked to Charlotte. State of North Carolina. All right, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Our show will be posted tomorrow, but if you want to listen every day, the show is up anywhere you find your podcasts. NBA Morning Deuce by 6 a.m. every morning, and the show will be posted every night going forward. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks.